Well, this week I am in Austin, Texas, and I have the opportunity to check out the 2026 Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. And this is the very first time Hyundai has put a hybrid powertrain into the Palisade. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk a little bit about the powertrain and how this is different from the gasoline model. I'm going to tell you some of the things that I like and some of the things that I don't like, and then we will jump into some brief driving impressions. My name is Jill Ciminillo, and this week's car du jour is the 2026 Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. All right, as we jump into the walk around, you will see this has the same upright stance and vertical headlight treatment that we see on the regular Palisade. There really are not a lot of design differences that you will find between these two models. No, a lot of the variation is going to be underneath the hood. So you do have a 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder engine that combines with two electric motors, and the combined output for this powertrain is going to be 329 horsepower and then 339 pound-feet of torque. Now, the interesting thing about this hybrid powertrain is the fact that it is paired with a 6-speed transmission. Now, this right here is going to be probably the only way you are going to tell that this is a hybrid version versus the ICE version. So you got some hybrid badging on the back, and that is going to be it. Now, moving to the interior of the cabin, I will point out these are calligraphy trimmed models. So you're going to have the up-level leather treatments and interior treatments throughout the vehicle. And you've got the really nice stitching, this two-tone steering wheel. You've got these accents on the seats. You've got the calligraphy embossed in the seat. And I am also going to point out that you have some really nice suede headliner material. I was joking with my partner during the drive. I'm like, ooh, this is the kind of material I want on the interior of my winter pajamas because it's so soft and fuzzy. But I mean, okay, yeah, it doubles as a headliner for the Hyundai Palisade. Now, similar to the gasoline version, you have this same design for the dash. You've got this single screen that goes across from the gauge cluster through to the infotainment screen, and these screens themselves are both 12.3 inches. You have some really nice accents and materials on the dash, from the wood to the leather to the aluminum trimming accent pieces. Yeah, you have a wireless charger here, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. You've got your USB-C charge ports right here in the front. One of the things I really appreciate from that Hyundai has done is they've given you dials and knobs for your more frequently touched items. So rather than putting all this stuff through the screen, they've actually given you physical controls. I think it's a nice mix between your screen option and your touch screen for the infotainment versus your actual physical controls. Now we'll take a quick look at the second and third row of the Hyundai Palisade Hybrid before I get into things that I like and I don't like. Okay, taking a quick look at the second row, I will say this is the calligraphy trimmed, so you do have the bougie captain's chairs and the dual pane moonroof, but you do have optional bench seats in lower trims. So what else do we have going on back here? So I guess the first thing I really want to point out is you do have your own climate controls back here. They are in the headliner, and you have your air vents right here in the headliner as well. And I will point out you do have heated and ventilated seats in the calligraphy trim. Again, because this is a top tier trim, you do also have these nifty sunshades. Looking at the third row really quick, okay, yeah, they do have 3 seat belts back here, but I'm going to say that this is more of a 2-person third row, but they've done some really nice stuff back here. And that includes the fact that, again, top tier trim, you have heated third row seats. I think the only time I've seen that outside of the Palisade is in a BMW X7. So really like that. But then you also have like power seats here so that you can create a little more legroom. And you've got a little slide. And again, this is going to be more of an upper trimmed feature. In terms of air vents, you've got them in the headliners here. And I like the fact that even though this doesn't come all the way to the third row, you do have some good light that comes in from the rear pano roof. Something else that Hyundai called out in the press preview that I didn't necessarily point out in the ICE version is the fact that they do have bigger windows back here. So in addition to having this glass roof here, you feel a little less claustrophobic because you've got a bigger window. And that is just a brief walk around of the Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. Now it's time to get into some of the things that I like and some of the things that I don't like. All right, now that we have talked about the powertrain and we've done the brief walk around, it is time for me to jump into the things that I like about the Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. And I'll be honest with you, I like a lot of things. So I'm probably not going to get to everything that I like, but let's just start with the power delivery. 329 horsepower. This is a really smooth delivery. I will talk about it a little bit more during my driving impressions, but I found that during acceleration, whether it was hard acceleration, off the line starts, it was just kind of a smooth start and a smooth power delivery that I really appreciated. And that's a little bit different than the gasoline version, which is just, a little less refined. So I really like the power delivery, and that is the first thing on my like list. To check out everything else, yeah, you need to see what I see. First things first, I really like the material choices on this calligraphy trim. And yes, I understand this is the top tier trim, so you're going to see things on here that you're not going to see on the base trims. Unfortunately, we don't have access to that. But I like what they have done with the color choices from the two-tone on the steering wheel to the material choices on the dash. And as I mentioned during the walk around, this suede material on the headliner is really nice and soft. And I think I would like that on clothing. Probably, as I mentioned, my pajamas. I also really like that they have included more physical touch buttons. I like the easiness of being able to just, turn the dial and get your air up, down, whatever. And even though these aren't physical controls, there's not an actual button that you push, it is very easy to see. You've got big icons in order to hit these things while you are driving. So I do appreciate that as well. We don't want that blowing on the mic. But this right here, in terms of your audio and your controls for the navigation, I definitely like the physical controls. I like the tuning knob. Yes, thank you for that. I will also point out that Hyundai still uses physical controls for your mirror adjustments, and this does have a manual adjustment for your steering wheel. And I actually like manual adjustments for your steering wheel because it's just faster. Something else I really like is going to be the camera option that you have going on. So you have a really good 3D camera and an around view monitor. I love the fact that you can literally take your finger and move the camera around so that you can see what is surrounding the vehicle from every angle. And then obviously you have your around view here. And when you put the vehicle into gear, it switches to straight back up or forward mode if you want it. So I like the camera views. I like the fact that you have a multitude of views and that you can get a really good look at what is happening around the vehicle. Especially important if you have children, or there could be toys or things that end up around the vehicle that you don't see when you get in the vehicle. Now, another feature that is on this vehicle that is going to be unique to the hybrid version is this also has a stay mode. So if you go to a location and you are going to be waiting for carpool or you just need to cool down, as long as you have about 80% of a charge on the battery, you can just sit here with the engine off up to about a half an hour. So it's a really nice option that you have if you're going to be sitting one place, but you don't want to idle. Another thing I really like is going to be the rear camera mirror option. And again, this is an upper trimmed option, but if you are putting people or things in this vehicle and you're not going to be able to see out your rear view mirror, you just turn on the digital camera and you can still see even if you're loaded to the gills. And to talk about the final thing that I really like on the Palisade, yeah, we're going to climb back there. I give third rows a really hard time in a lot of my videos, but this is not one of those third rows that suck. This is actually a really decent space, and a lot of that has to do with this large window and just an overall feeling of airiness. I do not feel cramped or claustrophobic back here. And I have plenty of leg room. So this is slid back in the far back position, and I still have about 4 inches between my knee and the back of that seat. But what you can do is you can even give yourself more. And again, calligraphy trim, power operated, 3rd row seats, but you can give yourself more or less leg room depending on what your cargo situation is. And yeah, you even have power recline seats. They've done a really nice job with this 3rd row in terms of overall comfort. The seats feel good, and just the overall feeling of expansiveness that you have in this 3rd row. Now, the only thing that I would say that they probably didn't get exactly right is I would have only made this a 2-seat situation, but they do have 3 seat belts back here, and I guess it's more for the emergency situation because, yeah, let me show you. If you have somebody sitting here and you have somebody sitting here, this person totally gets the shaft. This is not going to be a comfortable space for anybody because y'all are going to be bumping shoulders. So if you follow me, you know I am not a big person. I'm about 5 feet tall. I weigh around 100 pounds. And I'm the average size of a 10-year-old. So maybe that's who you're going to put in this space. But, okay, you see where my shoulders are? Me, next to me, doesn't work. Doesn't work. And if you have anybody smaller than me, they're probably in a car seat or on a booster seat, and they shouldn't be sitting back here anyway. So 2 people back here, yes. 3 people back here, yeah, you're going to be like this. But overall, I like the 3rd row, and I think they've done a good job with the space that they have. All right, it is now time for me to jump into the things that I don't like on the Hyundai Palisade Hybrid, and that list is considerably smaller than my like list, but this is kind of a big deal if you're a petite driver like I am. And okay, so one of the things that Hyundai touts is the relaxation seats, but what that does is it adds some extra stuff to what's going on right there. And this is my driving position, and this is what happens when I get into the vehicle. There's not a lot of space here, and yeah, when I'm moving my legs from gas to brake, I am totally feeling cramped in this position. And I think it's completely due to the fact that this has the relax and recline seats. If this extra bit wasn't here, I feel like I would have a little bit of extra room for my knees. So that gets a huge thumbs down for me as a petite driver. For somebody who's taller, it's probably not a big deal. All right, now it is time for me to get into the final 2 things. Yep, that's right. There's only 2 of them that I don't like, and one of them is really not going to surprise you. All right, this is the thing that is not going to surprise you. Yeah, this wireless phone charger did overheat my phone, and that was a little bit disappointing. I tried it with my case on, I tried it with my case off, and both times I had my phone in there for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and it did stop charging my phone because it overheated. So, yeah, I've said it once, I've said it a million times. You should not put a wireless charger in a car that doesn't have a cool pad or isn't going to work. And this, to me, didn't work because it did overheat my phone. Now, the other thing that I don't like is not the cup holders. The cup holders are fine. You know, they fit my larger Yeti and a can of sparkling water just fine. No, it's actually going to be this over here. If you have multiple beverages, which, yeah, we do, and you want to put something in the door as well as in the cup holder, okay, yeah, I got a can in there, but I wouldn't keep a can in there because as you open or close the door, if it's open, it's going to spill out. No, what I want to put in there is this, and that doesn't fit. Okay, so let me do this. So you open this, and this is just a really narrow space right here. And even though, like, ostensibly this fits, it kind of tilts out. And when you close it, that's going to be really hard to get things in and out of there. So it's an awkward shape. It's really narrow. And if you have anything bigger than this Yeti, it's not going to fit in there very well. So a bottle of water, plastic bottle of water will be fine. A can of soda will be fine. But you're going to want to put your bigger things in here. And I don't know if that's acceptable if you're going to have like 2 cups of coffee and then bottles of water. Yeah, I don't like that. But that's it. That's it. Those are the 3 things that I don't like on this vehicle. All right, now that I've closed out the things that I like and the things that I don't like on the Hyundai Palisade Hybrid, it's time for me to get into some brief driving impressions. And I do mean brief because I've literally only had about an hour and a half behind the wheel. But I will say overall, I find the seats to be very comfortable. I have good visibility out of all the windows. And as I mentioned on my like list, I feel like the power delivery in this vehicle is really smooth. So it's not going to be fast and peppy. It's not going to throw you back in your seat. But it's just nice, smooth, seamless acceleration that gets you where you want to go without like the klunk. So I like it. I like the power delivery and I like this powertrain. I think it's really well done. And I feel like Hyundai has really started to nail the hybrid powertrains. They're going to give Toyota a run for its money. Outside of that, I find this to be very comfortable on road. You don't really feel a lot of the bumps and grooves. I'd love to get this in Chicago and see how it does over potholes, but so far in Texas, it's been very smooth on the road. It feels great and confident on the highway, and the calligraphy trim especially is very, very quiet. So they have acoustic glass in the front, and I believe they also have it in the second rows. So you get a really great interior quietness for conversations, listening to podcasts, listening to your music, having a conversation with the person who's sitting in the seat next to you. So overall, first impressions of the Palisade Hybrid are very favorable. I like this. I think they've done a great job with it. And I love the fact that you have variability in terms of powertrain options. You want the gasoline option? Go for that. You want the hybrid option? Go for that. If you want an electric vehicle, Ioniq 9. But overall, I like this. I think they've done a good job. The materials, the technology, the overall comfort is really well done. And something I did not mention on my like list, I'm going to give you one last thing. Cargo volume. Behind the third row, you actually have a decent amount of cargo space. It's not like this. So I really like the actual fact that you could put some things, probably some like 3 or 4 rollerboards behind the third row, filling the seats. So yeah, okay, if you want much more than that, you're probably gonna have to have an external cargo carrier. But in general, I think that the cargo space for a vehicle of this size is also really well done. So that is what I have for you on the 2026 Hyundai Palisade Hybrid. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time with a new car du jour.